Welcome back, everybody. This is Lizzie,
And I'm May.
and we are Mayhem Mamas.
We're on this channel. We talk about what we want because it's our channel.
Yes, and we do. We talk about exactly what we want, and this episode will into that. Um, May, you want to go for it and tell them what we're going to talk about today?
Today we're going to talk about love and marriage, just like the television show. I just totally lost it. What show was that? Married
Married
with
with
Children.
children.
Yes, yes,
Love and marriage, love and marriage
yes.
goes together like a horse and carriage. And we've now all established that I cannot sing,
Oh, whatever.
but that's okay. Moving
Again,
right along.
it's our
So,
channel.
yep, that's on here if we want to, right?
Right.
So we decided that every time we do, or most of the time when we do an episode, we're going to kind of tie it into some fun facts about us. So you out there that are listening can kind of get to know us a little bit better. So, on that note, the love and marriage title, we are both married, and most days we are in love.
Yes, currently. Today's a good
That
day.
makes things really nice. If both of those are hand in hand, then life
Yes.
can be just grand, right?
Right. Yes.
So, my husband and I have been married for about 9 years. And how long have you been married?
We've been married 17 years.
Woo, yeah, she just had an
17.
anniversary not long ago.
Yes. August 6th, we were married 17 years.
Awesome. Awesome. So, you still got those fuzzy, warm feelings?
Oh, just like yesterday.
Well, good for you and good
Yeah.
for him.
Yeah.
Another thing we have in common with that is that we are both a little older than our spouses.
Right.
So, my husband and I are about, actually, we're about 16 and a half years, and he is younger, and interesting conversation.
Yeah. Yeah, that's almost 2 decades.
Thank you so much for that. Make me feel old. Go ahead, keep it up.
Oh, wow. You were driving a car and he was in Pampers.
I was graduating from high school and he was born.
You were wearing banana clips and he was eating mashed bananas.
Oh, okay, so that's burned and etched into my brain forever. All right, maybe let's move on from that. So, in other words, I am as old as dirt compared to my husband.
Well, I mean, here in a little while, you'll be eating mashed bananas.
And the flips will roll back around, so
Yep.
his hair out. Oh
Yeah.
gosh. But anyway, seriously though, it can be a real icebreaker for conversation.
Oh, yeah.
Um, but it's also kind of interesting to see how people react to that when we go places.
Right.
So initially, obviously, when we first met, my husband was in his late 20s and I was in my 40s. And so, um, and he looked like he was about 16 years old. So
Oh.
anytime we walked in somewhere, the first thing everybody wants to do is try to figure out, okay, what is this relationship?
Right. Is this your
Uh,
son?
right, unfortunately, but I told him, you could never have been my son because I wasn't having sex when I was that young.
Right.
So that's an impossibility. But yes, I am technically old enough to be his mama.
Right.
Um, but obviously, that's not the situation. But it's funny people react to that. They always are trying to figure out what that relationship is. And when we go into a restaurant and they get ready to bring the check, they always kind of stand there for a second, look at me, look at him, look back at me, And then they either one slide it in the middle or it slid to my side. It has never slid to my husband's side. And
Aw.
so they always just assume that I'm paying.
Right.
And I think that they do that because they think I'm mom
Or you're the sugar mama.
or I'm the sugar mama.
Yep.
Sure. Yeah, that could be. That could be. But it kind of gets a little bit frustrating because of the way everybody reacts. I've had people make comments to me, like people I don't even know, make comments to me about, you ought to be ashamed of yourself, da 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 da.
Mm.
Well, listen, people, he's not a baby out of the crib, and he
Right.
was not a baby out of the crib when I met him. He was a grown man,
Right.
and my husband does look very young, even now. Um, that he's in his late 30s and well, let's just say I'm older. And,
Yeah.
but he still does look, I mean, he looks like he's 21. So
Right.
it still is an issue for us um, as far as people, the way they react to it. So what do you think about that? Like if you were to walk in and you see, of course, you know us
Well,
both.
that
So,
that's the problem because I know you two, so I don't see an older woman with this younger man. I see you as a couple, and so when I look at you, you're both matched perfectly.
ah,
So I don't take it as this young man and this older lady. But let's talk for a second if your husband was older and in his 50s and you were 30 something.
right,
Wouldn't be
right.
an
Oh,
issue.
well, it's perceived completely different.
Right.
Because for thousands of years now, men have always had younger women. I mean, by a lot more years difference than what we have. And so that's just a norm in our society. It's not looked at or anything like that. It's just, oh, they're a couple. And I think a lot of times, um, not only do they see a couple coming in, they're like, oh, it's a couple, but they don't even think that possibly, "Oh, is that your dad?"
Right.
That's like it doesn't now, I mean, I know there's situation, especially if they're like 25 or 30 years, obviously, there might be something there that they're like, "Oh, wow, is that her dad?" But I think in most situations, it's just not even questioned.
Right.
It's just normal.
Exactly.
So, that can sometimes be irritating and frustrating. It's just another one of those things that double standard of, how we treat men as to how we treat women and all of that.
Right. Right. I noticed that during the pandemic, a lot of ladies, including myself, have just decided that, going to the salon every 4 to 6 weeks was just time consuming and, could just damage your hair and just got to be annoying. And so they stopped. And plus, you couldn't go,
Right, you couldn't
color.
go, and then a lot of people, when you could go, didn't wanna take the chance of going
Right.
and getting exposed to someone and then coming home with COVID and giving it to your whole family. So,
Right.
yeah, I think there was several different issues at play there for people starting to, 1, go longer, or 2, stop going at all.
Right. So a lot of women grew their hair out, and even celebrities. I know that they're like Sarah Jessica Parker grew her hair out, and she was sitting next to Andy Cohen in one of the articles. They snapped their photo together, and they were talking about how brave Sarah Jessica Parker was for growing her hair out in gray and how blah blah blah. Well, Andy Cohen has had his hair salt and peppered for years. Men have
Yes.
gone gray. They don't dye their hair as women do to cover their grays. And so Sarah Jessica Parker was like, this is just hair, people. I'm not curing cancer, I've grown my hair out in Hollywood. You know,
Right,
it's
right.
not a big deal. It's not an unheard of thing, but because she's a woman and the career that she's choosing to be in, they're making this huge deal of it. It's double standard and it's sad. It's really sad.
It is. I mean, even just we're not in a celebrity world, and we have regular jobs and go to work, and we're around just ordinary, regular people that do extraordinary things, by the way.
Oh yeah.
And but yeah, you see come in that's got their hair gray, and we as a society with women attribute that to old age.
Right.
We attribute it to being old, over the hill, life's over, doesn't care about what they look like, doesn't care about their appearance. All these things go into that. That's just not so.
Right.
Like you said, you're growing your hair out, and I think your hair is beautiful.
Thank you.
And you're not old at all by any stretch of the word. And I think it's gutsy and it's, empowering, and I don't see that there's anything wrong with it.
Well, thank you.
It's a color just like any other color that we put on our hair.
Exactly.
Just
And
happens to be a color that for women is associated with aging.
right. Right. And again, it just got to be to it was a it was a hassle, and I really wanted my hair to be healthier and stronger. Is mainly why I quit doing it. But I mean, you've got 20-year-olds now who are doing the gray-haired look, so that's a positive, and they're I mean, you think about it in the 80s growing up, and people would dye their hair green and red, and then they would be on like the Geraldo show or the Sally Jesse Raphael show, and people would call them freaks and, oh, you're never going to get a job looking like that, and oh my gosh, your parents are mortified, you're embarrassing your whole family, how could you do this? And
Right.
now I mean, just everybody has their hair colored some color. It's not even odd now to see somebody with a purple hair or green hair, or
Uh,
you're not being
goes.
unique anymore by
Right.
doing that.
Anything goes. Anything
Right.
goes. But we still have that stigma of old age associated with gray.
Yep.
And you made a good point there. People are like, oh, you're not going to get a job. You're not going to do this. You're not going to do that. It's kind of the same thing with the gray, but to the point, geez, how are you ever going to find a boyfriend with
Yeah.
gray hair? Because they're going to think you're, over the hill and gone
Mhm.
kind of thing. So yeah, it's crazy. And I have to say, um, obviously, like I said, my husband's much younger than I am, but one of the things that I find extremely attractive about an older gentleman, and not even it doesn't even have to be an older gentleman because there's a lot of people that prematurely go gray,
Mhm.
is as an older gentleman with a full set of, gray hairs.
Right. Right.
Silver, gray, I mean, I love the color, and
Mhm.
I think it's so attractive.
Mhm. Yep.
So why can't that be the same for women?
Right. Right. I think
We
it'll
just
just take time for society to adjust and get used to it. It's a new look. Women just recently started it in the recent years. So I think
right,
that, just like anything else, it'll just take time.
right. Yeah, I remember my grandmother, she grew her hair out, and her hair was silver, and it was just absolutely it was just beautiful.
Yeah.
But everybody always is still, was associating, oh, she must be really old and a grandma.
Yeah.
But her hair was beautiful, and I used to remember as a kid thinking that, that my grandmother's hair was just beautiful.
Mhm.
So I hope that we can come back to a point to where everyone feels like, "Oh, wow, your hair is really pretty."
Yeah.
Get away from that whole age thing.
We started off on marriage and ended up on hair.
That's a You know what? That's okay because that's how we roll.
That's
Our
so
our
funny.
our poor listeners will just have to keep up
Yep.
because That's how we roll. We start out with one thing and it goes to something totally different. And hey, you know what? That's okay because you know what? We can talk about whatever we want to on here because guess what?
It's
It's
our
our channel.
channel. Yeah, yeah,
Oh, so that's okay.
yeah.
That's okay.
So, when you got, I know this is, and you, if you don't want to talk about that, that's totally fine. I know this is your second marriage, not by choice. Um,
Right.
not that you were, this is arranged marriage or anything like that, but do you see yourself having that, like, was it like the 25-year golden anniversary and the whole, anniversary party and the fancy
um,
stuff?
yeah, I don't know. We up to this point really haven't been that couple.
Yeah.
Like we didn't have a wedding. We we kind of I don't want to say we eloped necessarily, but we kind of did.
Mhm.
People knew we were getting married, but not very many people knew we were getting married.
Right.
Um, so we kind of everything that we've kind of done has just kind of been the two of us, and which has been nice. Um, when my husband and I got together, my only child uh, was already off to college out of state. She wasn't here and, couldn't attend the wedding because we kind of did it on a spur of the moment thing anyway. But um, I don't know. I don't know if I can see myself. I mean, I for sure would like to celebrate.
Mhm.
I just don't really know what that would look like.
Right.
I mean, it might look like me in the nursing home and him coming down with my dogs to say hi.
Right.
That might be what that bringing me a piece of cheesecake and
With those
bringing my
fancy.
babies down to say hi. No, hopefully that's not the case at that mark in my life. But I mean, you never know. We don't know. We're not promised tomorrow, so we really don't know what's going to happen. But yeah, some kind of a celebration. But I don't know that it would include a bunch of people. Or if it would just be like us doing something special, like maybe going on a trip or something like that. What about
Right.
you? Because you're approaching.
Yeah,
I mean,
25 years is not out of the question, I guess. What
no,
is
because
that,
you're
7
rounding
years
the
away?
corner on that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. No, I don't see a big thing because, unfortunately, my family's dwindling, I don't have a big family to begin with, but what I
right,
do have is dwindling.
right.
Um, and so, and I, having a huge gathering's not important to me. I
Uh
would
huh.
rather, you know, do something fun like go to Universal Studios or go to Florida and go to the beaches or just do something
Yeah,
fun, or Colorado or something like that. Go take the money that I would spend for a huge event and go on vacation, I think is what I would
right.
rather do.
Yeah, I think we're on the same page with that
Yeah.
because I can definitely see us doing something like that as well. Um,
Cuz I don't
Making
need to take
memories.
my money and feed a bunch of people, you know? Y'all don't
Yeah.
need a free meal.
Right, exactly, exactly. Well, and the price of wedding cakes,
Yeah.
man, have you?
And
Yeah,
y'all
they're
don't need to
just
buy me something for staying with this person for 25 years.
right. Yeah, I agree. I agree. Yeah.
That don't
So,
need to happen.
no. So I definitely think we're on the same page with that. So, um, hopefully with us, there comes a time when I don't know. I keep saying maybe the little bit older he gets, this will happen, but it it doesn't because he gets a little bit older and I get a little older. So
Yeah.
it's like it's always going to be that age gap.
Yeah.
And I think probably the older we get, a little bit easier it gets as far as how we're perceived. But the only problem is once I get to a certain age, it's going to be really difficult for him
Right.
because I'm going to be so much older and in an in a totally different, let's just say, physical stage,
Right.
because I'm going to be so much older. So, then who knows? I mean, they may think I'm his grandma.
Yeah. Yeah.
Are you here to see your grandma? That's so nice
Yeah.
of you to come visit her.
Oh, you're
Uh,
taking care of me, Ma. That's so sweet.
hopefully, it doesn't come to that point, but
Go on and
I mean,
take
you
me,
never
Ma, to
know.
the IHOP.
Right.
Early
Right.
bird special.
Yeah.
So, do
But
you
we do
ever go like, oh, Jeremiah, remember in the 80s when when this band was out and he look at you like you've totally lost your mind?
um well, sometimes I don't know. I've had to educate this child on music. I know that much.
Ah!
This man child of mine has
Yeah,
had to be educated on some music. I mean, we that is one of the things here though is our genre of music that we listen to. That's another one of the bonders that we had. We like the same kind of music. So
right.
that's been a positive. So we like to go to music festivals and to concerts and music, and so that's been really nice to have that in common, which I think a lot of times is rare, especially with somebody my age, because music genres change and evolve over the years. But um, yeah, I mean, he's learned a lot about music from the '80s and prior to that. I mean, he knew a lot of the bands, but some of them he didn't. So yeah, it's been kind of fun, educating him on some of that stuff, and he's come to find a new appreciation for some of the older bands, which is nice. So, but you have to remember now, I am not too far off from his parents' age.
Right.
So, um, they grew up in that time as well. And so his mom doesn't listen to the same kind of music, but his dad does like some of the bands that we listen to. And so he did have some influences there, music wise, from his dad, that he's carried with him, and
Mm.
which is nice,
Yeah.
that you can share in that. That's one thing my daughter and I share in is our love and the styles of music. We're pretty close in what we like, so that always makes it nice as an adult. Then we have something else in common to bond over as well. So, what about you? Uh, do you guys share in the music thing?
Well, we're only 4 years apart. I'm 4 years older, so that's not as difficult to deal
No,
with.
huh?
Um, and his sisters, he has two older sisters, and his oldest sister I think is around my age. So it definitely makes it a lot easier. The only thing I think that's a little bit different is he grew up with computers and playing on computers a lot more than I did. I never grew up with a computer. Like,
Right? Yeah, me neither.
I never had one in the house. I never had one even when AOL was a thing.
Right,
It just wasn't my I didn't care about it. And
right.
then he grew up on Nintendo and all that stuff. And the only time I played Nintendo games is if I went over to a friend's house. I never had my own Nintendo stuff or anything like that. So uh, that wasn't really. But I mean, we play video games and stuff like that here. And
Uh huh.
but as far as we had when we first got together, we watched a lot of like Austin Powers was out, and we would quote the movies and laugh over
Right.
that kind of thing. And so we
Uh huh.
watched a lot of the same movies and
Right.
that kind of thing. He likes a lot of well, not that he listens to it all the time, but he likes classical music and stuff
Uh huh.
like that. But he also likes heavy metal music and rock music and stuff like that. Metallica's his favorite band,
Uh huh.
and he likes Tool. And so he kind of introduced me to some of that kind of stuff because I really didn't listen to that as much. in the 80s growing up. So he introduced me to a lot of that, and he kind of listened to a little bit of the country back then because his mom listened to it.
Uh-huh.
And so that's what my mom listened to. So I grew up listening to it, but also when I was in school would listen to like KJ and stuff like that, in
Right.
high
Yeah.
school growing up.
Kind of that popular pop, popular.
Right.
Yeah.
Back when music was decent.
Right. Yeah. Well, it's funny that you brought up the whole computer games and all that kind of thing because that is a major difference that we have.
Mhm.
We didn't have computers in school. We didn't
Mhm.
have computers in the home when I was growing up. And so my husband, obviously, he grew up with computer everything. We
Yeah.
didn't have cell phones, none of that kind of thing.
Nope.
So he's definitely very techy
Yep.
and he's a big time gamer, all of that kind of stuff. And so for me, I don't game. No.
Right.
When I was growing up, my brother had those little handheld football games
Oh,
with beep beep
yeah.
beep beep beep, those kinds of
Yeah.
things. And I think eventually my brother got like an Atari.
Yeah. Yeah. I
Uh,
had an Atari. That I did have.
Yeah, but other than that, no, I am not a gamer. I don't game. I still don't game to this day. My husband is a huge gamer.
Yeah.
And so in the very beginning, that was a little bit tricky as far as our relationship goes
Yeah.
because um, my husband had never been married before and he doesn't have any children. And so he was used to and he just gamed all the time. If he wasn't working,
Right.
he was gaming. So, that can be a huge problem for a lot of people, I think, especially if one of the people in the relationship isn't a gamer or doesn't game. So, um,
Mhm.
we try not to game when we're home together. He has his game time, and then we have our time. And I go to bed before he does. He's a late night person, and I'm not. I'm an early riser, and so um, it's just kind of one of those things that we decided this is what we were gonna do, and it's worked out well.
Right.
So, but yeah, I don't get all of that. It's not my thing. Just like he likes anime and no, to me it's cartoons.
Yeah,
I'm not a cartoon person, so
I can't do anime. I can do like adult cartoons, but I can't do anime. I just there's something about the way it's drawn. I just I don't like it. I don't like the. It's just not my cup of tea. I can't do it.
right. Yeah.
And that's okay.
Exactly.
That's fine.
Yeah, it's fine. I mean, everybody, there are things they can do that they can't, but I would probably the biggest the biggest takeaway for me as far as the subject of love and marriage and um, your spouse being younger is, it's else's decision to decide what's right for you.
Mhm.
That's between you and your significant other.
Yep.
And hey, if it works for you guys and you have a good relationship, it really shouldn't matter to anybody else what your
Exactly.
age is.
Right.
Um, and so for a long time, I think that caused some issues,
Yeah.
because not everybody was on board with our relationship,
Right.
and it wasn't. I mean, it goes for both sides of my family, his family, friends. We just had some people that weren't on board with it, and hey, that's okay. Everybody's got their opinions, and they have the right to feel their feelings and whatever they want to feel.
Right.
But then I think when people can truly see that this is not a relationship where somebody's out to get something.
Right.
It was a relationship where we came together as 2 people that you probably wouldn't have ever expected to come together,
Right.
and that we found companionship and things in common and love, and I think when people see that, "Oh, wow, you can tell these people love each other, and
Right.
there's respect there," then I think that most people come around to that, it's okay.
Right. Right.
Not that it really matters what anybody else thought,
Uh-huh.
but It does, you know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah,
It's
'cause
in there, and it does, because you want everybody that's involved in your lives
well,
to
of
be on
course.
board
Of
and to be
course.
happy, because if they're not on board, that can sometimes
Oh,
destroy relationships.
yes. That's
And so,
horrible.
yeah, so in the back of your mind, you're always just really in hopes that people can see that this is something, and we're in it for the long haul.
Right. Well, and let me say, as a parent, your first reaction is to be protective. And I would kind of question a mother who wouldn't question, your motives. I would definitely
Absolutely.
question if my son brought somebody home,
Sure.
even if they were, 4 years older. I mean, my husband's mom was like, hey, she's got a child already. I think my son was 5, I think at the time, and I had been divorced or uh recently got divorced, and so she was like, that's a lot to take on, and who's to say
Right.
this isn't just a rebound thing, and you know here we are 17 years later, but she had good reason.
Yeah,
As a
absolutely.
mom, I definitely would. I don't blame her one single bit. And then she got to see how he and I interacted with each other, and then she's like, "Oh, yeah, okay, I get it." But
Right.
I would be more concerned if she didn't,
Oh, for
you know?
sure. I mean, yeah, if my daughter had brought home somebody that was 16 years older than her, oh, I would
Mhm.
for sure have concerns.
Mhm.
Absolutely, especially in the very beginning. I would definitely have
Mhm.
concerns. And like I said before, everybody's entitled to their feelings. And us as women and as moms, of course, we're going to have more questions than your average person is going to have when it comes to our children.
Right.
So no, wholeheartedly, absolutely. And of course, then the other thing too is, as a parent, all you want anyway, that me as a parent, speaking for myself,
Mhm.
um, I just want my child to be happy. And
Yeah, I
so
do too.
I want my child to be happy. I want my child to be in a relationship with somebody that makes them happy. I want them to be in a relationship with someone who loves them and truly cares about them. And so uh once you can see that, then, I think that makes all the difference as well.
But let's say you have a child. Okay, let's just make believe for a second. You are the mother of a son who, let's pretend like you're 70 years old, okay? And your child is 50, okay? And he brings home a 20-year-old, and he's like, "Mom, this woman makes me happy." And you can kind of, and he has his own company, his own business, and you can see her intentions because she's a social media influencer or whatever. I mean, what do
What am
you
I gonna
say?
say?
Yeah.
Well, it's hard for me kind of in a way to be real, this subject is being turned around because I'm in that situation,
Kind of to a
kind of,
point.
to a point. But I guess this would be more my thing is I think after initially, for one, she's an adult. If she's 20 or in her 20s, she's an adult. So one, she can make her own decisions. And hopefully, I have raised her to be a smart, independent.
Well, no,
d-
the daughter's not your, the girl's
Oh, the
not yours.
son's
The
mine?
son is yours.
Oh, jeez.
And you can see what's going on.
Right. Well, I guess my big thing would be just say, obviously, he's a grown man and he's going to make his own decisions no matter. But I think there'd just be a nice way and word of caution that, you need to make sure that she's in this for the real, for the real love of it, and not
Mhm.
just she's seeing somebody who's already established with a business and
Mhm.
has money and can come in here and But honestly, really, it's not going to really probably matter what I say because how many times have you ever listened to your parents on a
Oh
relationship?
yeah, I know.
50 years old, I really don't have a horse in that race.
All right.
And I'll be honest with you, I'm not sure I want a horse in that race.
Yeah.
So I don't even know that I would say anything. Mine might be more the, well, time will tell. Let's see how this rolls. You better have your stuff together. Now, I think if it got to be a serious thing, he's thinking about marrying or something, then I might say something like, well, you better make sure that this is for the right reasons and you might want a prenup.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, it's not my business.
I
It's
don't
really
know.
not my business.
If she's coming over for Christmas, I'm ruining all her Instagram photos. I'm gonna be back there in all her
Ah,
shots.
well, there's one way to handle it, girl.
Yep.
That's one way.
What's
Well,
it called? Photo bombing? I'm photo bombing all those
yeah,
shots.
she won't come back to your house.
Nope.
It's not gonna come back to your house. All right. Well, I think we're gonna wrap this up. It's been a great conversation. We got a little bit off
Yes.
track, but still, it's okay. That's what we're here to do. We're not
Yep.
we're not gonna be held to any type of a. I said this was gonna be what it's about necessarily. So I think it was a great conversation. We're glad that everybody joined us
Yes.
for our Friday edition. Starting on Sunday, we will be back with our starting of our weekly lineup of Scandalous Sundays, Trauma Tuesdays, and Friday Free for Alls. So be sure to join us at 7 Central, and we'll see you next time. Thanks.
Yes. Bye.